Welcome to the Unshakeable Foundation meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. This is a main share meeting, and today it's with great pleasure, much gratitude that we welcome Mags D from BELFAST, who's come to share for around 40 minutes on the topic of The Peace is Within Me, after which we'll open up for 15 minutes of Q&A. So Mags, thank you so much for joining us, and it's over to you.
Thank you so much for your service, Young. And to everybody in the meeting that's being of service, thank you for asking me to be here this evening. And what a beautiful start to the new year to be here with all of you. I love the fellowship of CA. And for anybody that's new or returning, we've been waiting for you, is what I say all the time. We really have been waiting for you. And I know Christmas and New Year can be a tricky time for people, especially when you're new to recovery or you're in that state of flux around relapse potentially. But whatever is your story, if you're looking for a solution, it's meetings like this and the Unshakeable Foundation that will give you only a solution that will help you overcome the problem of addiction. And at CA, obviously, alcohol or any mind-altering substance. I always love when Young sets me a challenge. And he reminded me that I needed to think of a topic for this evening, and he reminded me very gently again last night, and I said to him, can I give you that topic in the morning, please? Because I was sitting with a couple of things, but inevitably I kept coming back to the one that was on my mind for the last 4 or 5 days, which is the fact that the peace is within me. And I don't know whether that topic has been put into my mind as a reminder to me with the stuff that I have going on in my life at this time, or whether it is for somebody in this room. But irrespective of the reason why it's been put into my mind, I thank God that it has been, because, you know, it's given me the opportunity to sit with that little line for some time and to think about what it actually means in my journey of recovery and how that peace within me has come about. Like I say often when I speak at meetings like this, I truly never know what I'm going to say. And I just hope that, you know, my only aim, as it says at the bottom of page 89, is to be helpful. And I always trust that something I will say will be helpful to somebody somewhere. I will probably dance around a little bit and maybe not get this into any semblance of order, really. But I feel tonight as if I'm compelled just to have a conversation and just to talk about, like it says in our 5th step, you know, have a long talk. And I look forward to the questions afterwards. I do like a little test or two as to some of the things that I might have said that you might have picked up on, and I don't even realise that I've said them. And then when you ask a question, I'm like, oh, did I? But we'll just go with the flow on that one too. I came into these rooms 2018, but I never got to the solution until 18 months later in 2019. And my life leading up to 2018 in my addiction, and in that 18 months of being in and out of the rooms, in out, shake it all about. Like you know, I talk about that dance, that hokey cokey. You know, the 18 months of doing that hokey cokey, my life was pure and utter chaos. Chaos after chaos after chaos. I lived and loved the chaos. Not only the chaos that I was creating, because it was me that was creating it in my life. But the chaos that I was creating in everybody else's life, I didn't realize all of that at the time when I was in active addiction or trying everything that I could to get out of it of my own will. It wasn't until I got a sponsor and worked the steps, like the desperation of a drowning man, that I started to take a good look at myself and the impact that I was having on the world around me, the people around me, and ultimately how much bad health I was in myself, spiritually, physically, mentally. When I was in those problems, I couldn't see the problems. I've come to learn through this program of recovery that what I was trying to do in my active addiction was to solve the problem at the level of the problem. But that's impossible to do. And what this program of recovery and this program of action, because it truly is about action every single day. What it has taught me is, and given me, is the ability and the opportunity to rise above those problems. Like whilst I'm sitting here with you this evening, I genuinely don't have any problems. And I say this time and time again, when I'm sitting with you guys, or I'm sitting with another person taking them through the steps, or if I'm being of service to the people around me at work, with my family or whatever, if I'm truly here fulfilling the purpose that I have been given to God, having had my addiction, I don't have any problems. And it tells us that on page 55 in We Agnostics, just before we go into that paragraph where it talks about the great reality that lives deep down inside every single man, woman and child. It talks about this spiritual liberation from this world. The people that wrote the book are starting to see the spiritual liberation from this world, the people that rose above their problems. And time after time after time after time, when I take somebody through the steps and they have the spiritual awakening as the result of the steps, by taking the action that's required, I watch and bear witness to people and their spiritual liberation from this world. When they are moving, rocketing so quickly with such pace into that fourth dimension of existence. That chaos and madness, noise that used to be in my life is no longer there. Really and truly, it's not. No matter what I'm faced with in my life, in any given moment of the day, truly what this program enables me to do is to see peace instead of the chaos or the frenetic nature of what is in front of me. What this program has enabled me to do is to have a choice. I can choose now to see things differently. I can choose to see you differently. And what a powerful thing is that? The reality of it is, it tells us, as we're in, there is a solution. I've lost all power. I've lost all control. And I've lost all choice with regards to my addiction. All three of those things. No power, no choice, no control. And they apply to my life. I had no control of my life. My life was unmanageable. I didn't have the ability to make choices in my life. I had consequences as a result of the choices that were made in my addiction. And I had no power. Not the power that I needed to overcome all of these problems in my life. My willpower, my own strength of character, which really and truly is so strong and determined, was getting me nowhere. Again, I was trying to fix the problem at the level of the problem. My problem in my life is that, you know, like everybody in this room, I'm an intelligent human being. Everybody in this room has intelligence. But my intelligence and what I knew was going to kill me because I was trying to figure it all out. If you're sitting in this room this evening or hearing this at some point and you're trying to work out and figure it all out, what will I do? Where will I go? How should I do it? What about this? What about that? Well, if I make that move first and then I don't do this and I do that, trying to figure it all out in your head. My better experience taught me that that will get me nowhere. Because in actual fact, this program is so simple. I nearly missed it by trying to work it all out. And the reality of what happens is when you sit with that other person who's armed with the facts about themselves and how they overcome their addiction, they ever so gracefully and gently take you by the hand. And I know this might sound all really fluffy and airy-fairy, but this is what happens. They take you by the hand and place your hand in the hand of the God of your own understanding that you probably don't even understand at this point, but it doesn't matter whether you do or don't, because you will come to believe that this power will restore you to sanity. But what you've got to do in order for the change to take place is to take the action. We can't sit about in the rooms just listening to people like me or anybody else, you know. Just listening isn't enough. It takes action. It's a significant part of it. You see, my problem is that Sandra heard me talk about this last week at her meeting. And this has kind of dawned on me. You see, my problem in life, not only when I was in addiction, but my problem in life just now, even in recovery, is that I am constantly surrounded by people who, quite frankly, stubbornly insist on having their own personality. Like, that's what I'm faced with every single day. People like you who are so stubborn and insist on having your own personality. And you know what? That sometimes doesn't work for me. In fact, a lot of the times, it doesn't work for me. But you know what that is? That's a me problem, not a you problem. There's a girl at work that sometimes says that to me, you know, Max, that's a you problem. I really don't like that girl so much because she stubbornly insists on having her own personality. But what are we going to do about a thing like that? Because these people that have their own opinions and have their own judgments and have their own ways of doing things, they can be a problem for me in life. And that's where I lack peace. That's where I go into a mindset that is so chaotic and so disturbed because I want to control the show. I want to tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it in any given moment of the day. You know, and I'm a human being. I'm certainly not perfect. What I do know, though, is that I am perfect in the eyes of the power that is greater than me. But I want you to become something that I need you to be. And what this program of action and what this program of recovery, and I keep on talking about recovery and action because the two of them go together. You can't have recovery and not take the action. What those two words enable me to do is to practice something every single day, every single moment of the day, that daily reprieve that keeps me in a sane mind and helps me understand that when you disturb me, I am never upset for the reason that I think I am, because it's never about you. It's never about the person standing in front of me. It's never about the person sitting behind me on the bus that's making a load of noise. It's never about anybody else. And the freedom that comes from that is really, really, truly powerful. But I have to practice this every single day pretty intensely to be free from the bondage of myself, which causes all my problems. Literally causes all my problems. You know, this constant living, like really, truly living, being alive to this world and living in step 10, 11 and 12, our daily reprieve every single day is where I have the opportunity to tap into what is now that inner resource. It used to be that unsuspected inner resource, but now I know it is my inner resource. You know, it 100% is, not if, not what, not maybe. It is my inner resource. And if you think about that word, and I just thought about this tonight before I logged on, it's that inner resource. Every second of the day, I can go back inside myself and resource the power that is greater than me. And it's a constant flow of tapping into that. That's what this practice is about. You know, the thing for me to understand, and don't get me wrong, I didn't know anything about this stuff. I was going to say something else. I didn't know anything about this stuff, this spiritual way of living before I came into these rooms. I didn't really understand it. I don't really understand it now. And truly what I've experienced in this day-to-day practice is I don't have to understand it. I don't have to work it out. I just have to keep tapping into this source that guides me, that directs me, and ultimately tells me what to do. If I remain willing and honest with myself and open-minded enough to think that there could be a better way, a different way that isn't my way, and could be your way, and not to be obstinate or an obstacle when someone's opinion or judgment or way doesn't go the way that I want it. And I know this might sound really, really simple, and you might all be sitting here thinking, what's she going on about? Because this is how I live my life every day. And if it is how you live your life every single day, well, fantastic. I want to call you and I want to speak to you, you know, to find out how you do this practice too. I find it incredibly difficult. It does take effort. It does take work. It tells us that on page 14, doesn't it, in Bill's story, that, you know, maybe not page 14, but somewhere in there, well, Young, you can keep me right. You know, it's a simple program, but it's not easy. I don't find this easy, but it has got easier as time has gone on because of the need to practice it, because I'm the type of alcoholic who needs to do this stuff. It is page 14. I'm the type of person that needs to have a set of guidelines and rules, if you like, because there are rules in AA. There's several occasions where they tell us about these rules in AA. And, you know, these guidelines that I follow in my daily reprieve every single day, you know, this absolute and utter joy of step 10, like this constant watching myself. We watch for this selfishness, this dishonesty, this resentment, and this fear, and everything in between, the jealousy, the impatience, the intolerance, watching myself like a hawk, watching how I react to you. If you disturb me, what my reaction is to you. Because remember, and I've come to know this, that the reason I am never upset for the reason that I think. It's not about you disturbing me. It's not about you distracting me. It's about what's going on inside me, and to watch what sits beneath that fear, what sits beneath that jealousy, what sits beneath that intolerance. What is that? What is that? Why am I feeling that? Why am I feeling that? Asking God to remove it and resolutely turning my thoughts. Watching, asking, turning all the time. And I'm doing that stuff at work. I'm doing it with my family. I'm doing it in the rooms of the fellowship. A lot of the times, most of the times in the rooms of the fellowship. The treasure that is within that step 10 practice is incredible. And I've got to the point where I don't actually understand when someone's not doing it. It's like, well, why aren't you doing it? If a sponsee calls me and, they're in a state of flux and they've got all of this stuff going on in their life, and I know that they've had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps, my first question is, well, where are you at? We're 10, 11 and 12. Talk to me about what your practice is. And very quickly, you can get to the crux of where they're at in their thought life. You can get to the crux of what is happening, where their thoughts become their actions become their words. And then they wonder why they're in this state of flux, biting at everybody, not getting what they want. The ability to watch myself and to reset that dial, to recalibrate every single moment of the day. As long as I'm remaining with an open mind, because the reality of it is, my responsibility is to maintain my spiritual condition. It's so simple. The condition is sorted out by God, but I have to maintain it. And for me to maintain it is simply the fact that I consistently and constantly am in the practice of asking God to remove the blocks to the awareness of his presence in me. Because that's all there is in me, is blocks to the awareness of God's presence. And how do I get those blocks removed? Dead simple. In the first instance, I'm doing my step 4. I'm doing my step 5. I'm asking for the defects and the shortcomings to be removed in 6 and 7. You get this big excavation the first time through the steps of all of this stuff. And then we go again and again and again every single day, digging down to the root of what is actually going on. It's a beautiful, freeing, wonderful, invigorating thing, because whilst I'm doing that and those blocks are being removed, there's more space for more God to get in. That's the way that I look at it. And there's sometimes when it can feel pretty treacherous. My ego has formed itself in a way that I recognize it, and that's who, in any given moment of the day, I can become that and separated from the power that is greater than me. My self-will can run riot, but very, very quickly I can identify when that's happening and be able to then snap out of that and choose to see things differently. I can choose to see peace instead of this. That is my mantra a lot of the times when I'm around people. I can choose to see peace instead of this. And that's how I've got through today. Silly little example. I've got, with all due respect to anybody that is in this profession, because you do a great job, but I've got a little civil servant that's contacting me about something minuscule, right? Minuscule. In the grand scheme of everything that I do at work, they just want to know about a few numbers and all of that. Now you can tell what I wanted to say to that young person today, or what I wanted to say to that guy today. There aren't enough expletives to even describe it. There really and truly are not, but that guy's just doing his job. But I can go down a rabbit hole with simple stuff like that, and I will then turn on you. And the next person, and the next person. That is who I am. Until I'm not. When I drop into the awareness of God's presence, something else happens, and all I can see is love. And all I can see is people, there's a call for love. You know, if someone's distressed or someone's upset, it's a call for love. If I'm in distress or if I'm upset, it's a call for love. If I'm in fear, it's a call for the love of God. I've come to understand that fear is that separation from God, that fear is the opposite of love. When I'm in the awareness of God's presence, all I feel and have to give and to receive is the love of God. And again, that might all sound very, very airy-fairy. And that's okay too. I never used to talk like this. I never used to experience this type of stuff. But somehow or other, what you guys have shown me, particularly in this fellowship of CA, what you have taught me is about true love and tolerance. That is our code. How you fellows in this fellowship look out for each other, care for each other, and really take each other under your wing is phenomenal to me every single day. I've got some people here on this screen in front of me, and on the other screens, I'm sure, like I stand on the shoulders of giants. I really do. And that's when I get emotional about things in this amazing life that is recovery. My sponsor says all the time, we're in the saving lives game. Because we are. And we know that it's not us as humans that do it, but we are in the saving lives game. We take all of our jobs really, really seriously, don't we, when we come into this fellowship? We know we have to keep on carrying this message. Because if we keep on carrying this message and keep on giving it away, it gives us more energy to keep on doing this sort of stuff. And I can tell you now that the only way that the peace is within me is because every time I show up with a newcomer, or every time I'm with somebody taking them through the steps, or every time, you know, my constant thought of others, like it tells us on page 20 of the big book, it tells us that, you know, our constant thought of others, our very lives depend on it. And it really and truly does. Our very lives depends upon our constant thought of others. And when I'm in that process of constantly thinking of others, that's when the peace is within me. You know, this is a really, really simple life. Over the course of my recovery, my life has become so much more full. There's not a second in the day sometimes where you're going from one thing to another, to another, to another. You all do this stuff too. And if you don't, you soon will be. Because this is when life takes on new meaning. You know, when you're looking into the eyes of another person who's really, really, really sick, physically, mentally, spiritually, and all of a sudden you see this transformation taking place in them and they don't even realize that it's happening to them. But you're witnessing it. You're bearing witness to it right before your very eyes. They think there's nothing happening. But in actual fact, that psychic change 100% is taking place within them. And it's a really, really good thing that we don't know what's happening to us. I never realized it was happening to me. I remember sitting having pizza with my sponsor a very, very short time after I'd completed, you know, the pages of the book. I'm never done with this work, of course. But I remember sitting having pizza with him and saying to him, do you think I've had a psychic change? And he literally dropped the pizza that he was eating because he was like, what? Have you had a psychic change? He couldn't believe that I didn't know that it happened to me. And that was the genuine truth. I didn't realize. I was like, oh yeah, all of a sudden the drink and the drug problem had disappeared. And if you're sitting in this room or you're listening to this and you're again trying to figure it all out, you know, the transformation is happening. If you're doing the work and taking the action that your sponsor's instructing you to take, all of those clear-cut directions that are set out in masterly detail, the transformation is taking place. And all you're doing is working it through and working it through. You may be feeling some fear and you may be feeling some angst and you may be feeling some emotion, You might be feeling all this drama. Oh my God, step 4, step 5, blah, all of that. No, fearless, thorough moral inventory of yourself. There's nothing to be afraid of in any way, shape or form as you go through this process. And it is a process. I know that this isn't, there is no destination with this. We're constantly trudging this road of happy destiny. Note that word on page 164. We're not trudging the road to happy destiny. We're constantly trudging the road of happy destiny. I'm always on it. I'm always trudging. And if I'm not trudging, then I need to think again about where I'm at. Because right at the heart of everything that we do is trudging this together. And, you know, if you are feeling that angst and emotion and the fear and all of that, because the transformation is happening, what is on the other side of that is peace. What's on the other side of that is calmer. What's on the other side of that is the ability to trust something greater than you. And I find that hard sometimes to let go. But my life is a constant state of letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go. I didn't know what that was to let go until I went through this process. It's continually avoided. And if you ever want to talk to me about what letting go is, feel free to give me a call, because I will hang on with my fingernails to the bitter end before I'll let go. But then there comes a point where you just have to have that trust fall, because the pain becomes so excruciating you can't take any more. Like it says on page 25, I can continue on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of this intolerable situation that I might find myself in, or I can accept the spiritual help, because ultimately that's the solution. No matter what problem I'm faced with in my life, whether that be work, whether that be health, family, relationships, whatever it is. Where I struggle the most is when this power is so gracefully, through my step 10, 11 and 12, is trying to take me to the new version of myself. The old version hangs on, hangs on, hangs on, and it tries to distract me. It tries to deviate me away, whereas all God wants to do is to take me ever so gently and glide me into this transformation. I know, again, it might sound all airy-fairy and whatever, and it might not make any sense to you, but when I cling on for dear life to the old version of what I think I know, a fixed idea, an old idea, all it creates is that I become stuck. I become blocked from the awareness of God's presence inside me that wants to help, support, take me, direct me, guide me, command me, all of those words to the other side. And on the other side, there is always peace. There is always peace. And then you know that philosopher, don't even know the name, can't remember the name, that talks about the fact that you live forwards and you learn backwards. Often when I get to the other side and I experience the peace, I can look back and go, oh, now I see why. Now I see how I caused the distraction. Now I see why I had a closed mind. Now I see why and how I was unwilling. Now I see why I was telling myself a lie. You know? I am no longer able to live for any extended period of time in those bedevilments that are set out on page 52. My life prior, when I was in active addiction, I was a walking page 52, filled with the bedevilments, prey to misery and depression. having difficulty with personal relationships. I wasn't able to make a living. I couldn't be of use to anybody. But if I'm off key with any of the bedevilments, the 9 that are listed on page 52, and many others, if I'm off key, again, it's time to recalibrate. It's time to take a breath, like Young talked about before the meeting. It's time to pause. Because in that pause is the answer. In that pause is the little compass that takes me to the direction that is going to serve me well. In that pause, in that moment, in that millisecond, is the peace within me every single time. That's what's there for you. That's what's there for the taking. And like I said a few minutes ago, my life is so full. Your life is so full when you're totally and utterly committed to this program and making the changes that we need to make. Yet in many respects, in a really, really positive way, my life has become really, really concentrated. Some might say smaller, but it isn't really smaller. It's just become concentrated. And in that concentration, in that really strong hold, you know, there's a verse from another very popular book that it talks about God and the power being my stronghold. You know, within that concentrated life is my stronghold. And I don't wish to go all Christian and woo-woo on that. I don't know why that thought has been coming to my mind. No one would ever know my spiritual practice and all of that, really. But that's what I feel when I'm speaking with you tonight. I've got a strong hold that supports me no matter what. You know, I shouldn't be afraid at all. Because there's nothing to fear in this life when I have a dependence that comes from something greater than me. I never understood when you guys talked about one day at a time. I don't struggle with recovery one day at a time. What you guys have shown me, what this program of action and what this program of recovery has shown me is how to live one day at a time. And there's a significant difference in being able to be present in every single moment of this life. Not to be racing off into the future, not to be regretting the past, but to simply be present in the moment. I remember a few years ago, my nephew asking my sister, what's the big change that you've seen in Margaret since you stopped drinking? And my sister's response, of course, I was expecting something mega. You know, she's a wonderful person. She's awesome. She's just gorgeous, beautiful. She's a completely different person. There's no one like her on this universe. And, you know, I just want to be like her when I grow up. And do you know what my sister's response was to my nephew's question? She listens. That's all my sister ever wanted. That's what was important to her. And something so simple to be able to truly be present and listen. Not for my eyes to be darting off somewhere else. Where can I be? Where should I be? Where can I hide? Where can I go? Who's going to come find me? To sit alone in perfect peace and ease is a priceless, priceless gift from a power greater than me that I never thought was possible and never thought could exist. And that's what you guys have given to me. That's what this program 100% has given to me. Like, where else would you get it? You can't buy it in therapy. There's no therapist that's ever been able to give me the answers that I needed in my life. Genuinely, there's not. what I now have the practice of doing is going within. And I'm going to finish on this. I no longer want to be constantly surrounded and agitated because of my own thinking by these people who stubbornly insist on having their own personalities. You know what? I love your personality. Knock yourself out. Be yourself. Let them and get on with it. Be who you need to be. Because what this program has taught me, page 132, right in the center. Thank you, Young. What this program has taught me right in the center of page 132. The best thing that we have is the opportunity to absolutely insist in enjoying life. That's what recovery is all about. Life is too short to do anything else. Thank you so much, Young.
Come on in, Kaz.
Thanks. Thanks, Max, for your share. My question today is, well, for me today, I've done everything like my prayers and meditation and awakening, reached out to sponsees, gone on a book study. But today, I just can't seem to shake off, this feeling, and my prayers don't feel like they're aligning or anything. I even got on the floor today, which I usually don't do. I just don't feel anything. And I just wanted to know if you have those days and how you work through them when you feel that you have done everything, but you still just don't feel right, if you know what I mean.
There's so much in there. We could do an hour on that one question. Well, the clear-cut directions will say on page 89, the first paragraph, when all other methods appear to be failing, like your prayer and meditation, work and self-sacrifice with another alcoholic will save the day. And the thing about it is that within our step 10 practice, watch, ask, turn, you're watching for the things inside yourself. So you're feeling a little bit angsty or whatever it might be. You're watching it, but what actually is going on beneath what you're feeling? What's next? What's actually going on? You got to drill down, because the reason why you think you're off is not the reason why you think you're off. It's the surface level stuff that's distracting you. It's your ego that's distracting you. When in actual fact, you have to watch, right? Okay. So it's jealousy. What sits beneath the jealousy? I'm not getting what I want. What is it that you want? What are you not getting what you want? You're asking God to remove whatever it is, and then you're resolutely turning your thoughts. The key word there, Kaz, is resolutely, resolved. You're turning your thoughts constantly to other people until the situation that you find yourself in is resolved. Whereas it sounds to me as if you're just like, this ain't working, so I'm not going to continue to resolutely turn my thoughts. I'm not suggesting that is what you're doing, but you have to constantly turn your thoughts, because in constantly turning your thoughts then to someone else, it starts to shift. It starts to transform. I don't know whether that helps you, but it is that constant thought of others when all other measures fail. And I think tonight what's important is your inventory. Clearly, have you packed into the stream of life? But in answer to the other question, do I get like that? Absolutely I do. But what I have to keep doing is what I'm just saying to you, genuinely. And to sit with and watch exactly what it is, because the surface level is never the reason why you're upset. The surface level is never the reason why you're not on point. The surface level is often your ego trying to distract you from looking at what is actually going on inside you.
Thank you, Max. Thank you, Kaz. Thanks for your question. Next up, Angela. Come on in, Angela.
Thank you very much, Young. And thank you, Max. Always a pleasure to listen to you. I could listen to you all night. I really could. When you spoke about when we see that transformation in people when they go through, you know, that light coming on, and you see them subtle little changes that are just, they're beautiful, aren't they? And it tells us, doesn't it, that nothing so much ensures immunity as intensive work with others. So my question is, what do you see changing you when you work with others?
Oh God. So much. The life-giving thing for me is that step 12, when you sit in front of somebody else and see your own reflection. And when you see your own reflection of judgment, opinion, closed mind, and sitting with another person and actually seeing how I can project onto people what's actually going on in me, and it's nothing to do with them. So to sit in front of somebody else and to really watch whilst I'm doing that, sponsorship and helping people through this program has shown me the reflection of who I was, who I don't want to be, and why I wish to continue to grow and be rid of the blocks inside myself so that I can interact with every single person on this planet. Because there's nobody here that can do me any harm, and I'm not a victim in life anymore, Angela. But the importance of sponsorship for me is seeing my own reflection of the things that are still blocking me. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Angela, for your question. Next up, we've got TJ. Hi, TJ, coming in.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for hosting the meeting, Young. And it was Meg, wasn't it? Thank you for your share. I just wanted to ask, I'm a Sufi, so my religious beliefs is to fight my ego all the time in all walks of life.
Beautiful.
Sorry. Was someone else speaking?
No, I'm just saying how beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, so I became Sufi. I was born a Sunni Muslim, and
Yes.
I was raised a Sunni Muslim. In 2018, I converted to Sufi Muslim.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I followed that to the T now. And obviously, with us, we fight ego in every single way, from shop clothes to how we act. We believe that everyone we meet is better than us. So we keep our ego. I'm just wondering how, because you've mentioned ego on numerous occasions, what tools do you use to fight your ego?
Well, if I'm honest, like it says on our 10-step promises, bottom of page 84, I've ceased fighting anything or anyone. And I've actually, TJ, stopped fighting my ego because it's trying to win a losing battle, if I'm really honest. What I do is I watch my ego at play. I acknowledge it and go, oh, interesting. There she's popped up. I even have a little name for my ego because I can see her in action. And I know when it's not Mags. I know when I'm not connected to the power because this other thing comes in. It's like an alter ego. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, Beyonce has Sasha Fierce or whatever it is. I'm not suggesting that I'm Beyonce and that I am Sasha Fierce, but there's another thing goes on with me, TJ, where I can identify when I'm separated from the power that that's my ego at play, genuinely. And the thing for me that brings me to my truest self, my innermost self, is the absolute practice of prayer and meditation. You know, that's where I hear the voice within. That's when I step away, if you like, from the ego. And I know that within your religious practice, you have many ways of ensuring that the ego is kept at bay. I read an amazing book. If anybody wants to find out about it, message me. All about your practices, and it's a very, very stunningly beautiful, peaceful way of living. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Hey, thank you. Good to see you, TJ. Thank you so much. Hey, Laura, come on in.
Hi, Young, and hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Good to see you all. And thanks to everyone who does service, and Mag's beautiful as always. Good to see you. My question is, so as a person who's newly sponsoring, I found already that, you know, I want to be I want to be on my two sponsees all the time. I want to help them when they have problems. And I also have my defects of character are, people pleasing, perfectionism, and I try to rescue people. I know that's not what sponsorship is. How do you balance that kind of relationship when you have sponsees?
All I'll say, Laura, is the more you do it, the more that stuff will be knocked right out of you. Because you will not be able to fix anyone, and it's not, like you've said, it's not your job to do all of that. In sponsorship, all I have to do is to set aside every single thing I think I know, and in order to have the new experience with God. And often what you'll be seeing genuinely is a reflection of the blocks inside you that still need to be healed. And that's what will rise to the surface for you. And the more and more you sponsor, the more and more this stuff will come to the surface and it will be rectified in you. I'm telling you now, the one thing that took away my people pleasing was sponsorship. Intensive work, one alcoholic with another, because you learn that you are not going to be able to survive with pleasing people. No. It's a beautiful thing. It's life changing. So make that 2-4, make that 4-8, make that 8-16.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks so much, Laura. Michael, come on in, Michael.
Hi, Young. Thank you. Michael Recovered Addict. Mags, thank you so much for your share. Absolutely. You're a beautiful soul, and I love listening to you. Every time I hear you, I get a different message. So you were talking quite a bit on, what the problem isn't the service, isn't the surface problem, and when I try and step back, what it tends to be, if I'm honest, realistically, is how it's going to affect me, whatever's going on, right? Which I know is like self-centered or whatever. And I think that is where I'm going from reliance to I believe in God, but I'm not relying on God. So my question would be, how do I stop that? How do I remain in reliance and stop trying to run the show every now and then? I know it's possibly quite a big question, but yeah, thanks again, Max. Cheers.
No, you're very welcome, Michael. Always good to see you. It's like, I know it sounds dead simple, but it is how I stop my self-reliance is staying close to God and doing his work well, like it says in the 3rd step promises. As long as I stay close to him and do his work well, then something else happens. And I stay close to him and do his work well by step 10, 11 and 12 every single day. I have to watch for that stuff. The great thing, Michael, is that you're aware of the self-reliance, which you wouldn't have been before. So that in and of itself is progress. That in and of itself is a psychic change. That in and of itself is transformation. So as long as you continue to watch, the transformation will take place further and further and further, the deeper and deeper you go with your prayer, meditation and helping other individuals. So like it says on page 19, the elimination of our drinking was but the beginning. We've only just scratched the surface. The same applies in all of these things that we're working on internally. I've only just scratched the surface, but I'm just going to keep on digging and digging and digging and digging. And through that, the transformation takes place. You got to allow yourself the time. This is not an overnight matter. That's what it tells us in the practice. I'm expecting to become God on high with halos and angels flying around me everywhere I go, like yesterday. But it's not a destination. It's progress, not perfection. So keep on the practice. That's all it's about. But Babe would be able to tell you more because he has more wisdom than I.
Thank you, Michael. And just on cue, last up. Hi, Babe. Good to see you. Come on in.
Kids, there must be another Babe on here. I'm Babe, I'm an alcoholic. Max, always a delight. And everything you've said just rings so true, and we heard about fighting the ego. You said we continue to watch for these things. Watch like a hawk or an eagle. I don't remember which raptor you pick. But But have you found, and that, I mean, you're answering my question. You have answered it through the other questions. Have you found, though, that the more we practice the discipline, the easier it is? I'm not walking around with a 4-column resentment inventory. I'm not walking around with an expanded 2-column fear inventory, 9 relationship questions all the time. Oh my God, I've got 5 minutes. I haven't taken an inventory. But you touched on it. We're in this place of neutrality, safe and protected. And I know your answer is going to be, I don't even know when it happened, when I realized that I was in this position of neutrality. But when we look back, it'd be good. And through no effort on our part. I guess that's my question. How much effort does it feel like now as opposed to when you started the journey?
Oh, it's a breeze. It's a breeze. It's a breeze. It still takes work and it still takes effort and it still be exhausting sometimes. But is it easier? 1,000,000% it gets easier every day the more we practice. Honest to God, it's just a breeze. And when it's not a breeze is when I'm not doing it. That's when life becomes clunky. That's when life becomes hard.